One troubling headline enters your morning, and suddenly your peace is gone. The company announces changes. Your paycheck becomes uncertain. The application is rejected. Someone attacks your reputation. A door you expected to open remains closed, and the future refuses to explain itself. Nothing has happened yet, but your mind has already lived through 12 disasters. Are you with me? Now listen carefully. The crisis is not only what happened around you. The crisis is what happened inside you when it happened. How can peace disappear in 5 minutes when faith has been confessed for 5 years? The external event did not create the foundation. It exposed the foundation. Write this down. Whatever controls your peace has acquired authority over your identity. That is a serious principle. If a paycheck can tell you whether you matter, then the paycheck has become more than income. It has become a government. If public approval can determine your value, then opinion has become your ruler. If an open door makes you somebody and a closed door makes you nobody, your identity is living at the mercy of circumstances. Now, I am not telling you that hardship is imaginary. Financial pressure is real. Rejection hurts. Illness can be frightening. Social conflict can damage families, careers, and communities. Anxiety is not automatic evidence that you have no faith. We are not condemning the person who feels afraid. We are examining what fear is attempting to govern. Here is the distinction. A condition can affect your life without possessing your life. You may live in an uncertain economy, but the economy does not have to live on the throne of your heart. You may reside within changing social conditions while locating your deepest identity, allegiance, and worth in a kingdom that is not elected by markets, controlled by applause, or cancelled by rejection. Everybody say this: conditions may affect me, but they do not own me. Say it again. Conditions may affect me, but they do not own me. That does not mean you ignore the bill. It means the bill cannot name you. It does not mean you dismiss the diagnosis. It means the diagnosis cannot become your citizenship. It does not mean you stop planning for tomorrow. It means tomorrow is no longer permitted to terrorize today. So we are going to do 5 things. We will define citizenship. We will expose the false securities that have been governing us. We will replace scarcity with stewardship. We will connect faith to responsible action. And finally, we will conduct a citizenship test to discover which authority truly has the final word in our decisions. This is important. You cannot relocate your security until you understand where it belongs. And before we can understand where it belongs, we must rescue the word citizenship from vague religious language and give it a practical definition. Let me define the term before we continue. Write this down. Citizenship identifies the government whose authority, culture, and values you accept as governing your life. Citizenship is not merely where you hope to go. Citizenship tells you who you are, to whom you belong, what standards direct you, and what responsibilities you carry right now. Think about ordinary national citizenship. A citizen receives an identity, certain privileges, and the protection of a legal order. But that citizen also accepts laws, duties, and accountability. When traveling abroad, the citizen still represents the country of origin. Distance does not cancel identity. Location does not erase allegiance. Now watch this. The kingdom framework presents heaven not merely as a beautiful place for the distant future, but as the governing country of the king. The believer lives on earth while receiving identity, values, and direction from that higher government. This means your earthly address and your ultimate citizenship are not the same thing. You missed it. You can have an earthly residence without allowing earthly conditions to become your highest authority. Some people have reduced heavenly citizenship to an evacuation plan. They are waiting to leave the world while ignoring their responsibility within it. But citizenship is not an excuse to escape the territory. It is authorization to represent the government in the territory. You are not here merely to survive until departure. You are here to demonstrate another culture through the way you work, serve, lead, give, forgive, and respond under pressure. Consider an embassy. An embassy stands within one nation, but it represents another. Its location does not determine its allegiance. It may be surrounded by a different culture, different priorities, and different pressures, but its identity comes from the government it represents. That is the picture. Your home should become an embassy of peace. Your work should become an embassy of integrity. Your relationships should become an embassy of honor. Your use of resources should become an embassy of stewardship. Are you with me? And here is the real test. Which voice becomes final when fear, profit, popularity, and conviction disagree? Anyone can claim a label when obedience costs nothing. Citizenship becomes visible when compromise offers an advantage and you still choose the values of the king. Restored citizenship, therefore, means more than privileges. It means restored connection, restored purpose, and restored accountability. You do not receive identity so you can become entitled. You receive identity so you can become useful. So examine yourself. What defines success for you? What makes you feel safe? What controls your relationships? What determines how you spend, save, and give? Do your answers come from fear, comparison, and social pressure, or from the values of the kingdom you claim to represent? Everybody say this. Citizenship is revealed by the authority I obey and the culture I reproduce. Again, the authority I obey and the culture I reproduce. Now, citizenship is no longer vague. It has become practical. But once you understand the government you represent, another question becomes unavoidable. If the king is the source of everything entrusted to you, what exactly belongs to the citizen? Here is the problem. Anxiety grows whenever you believe that everything depends on your power to possess it, preserve it, and control it. The more you call something mine, the more terrified you become that someone may take it. Ownership without security produces worry. Write this down. In a kingdom, the king is the source, and the citizen is a steward. A steward is not an owner pretending to be generous. A steward is a trusted manager. The resources belong to the authority who assigned them, but the steward receives access, responsibility, and a purpose for their use. Suppose a company places a vehicle, a budget, and a team under a manager's care. That manager cannot say, "This belongs to me, so I will do whatever I please." No, the manager must understand why those resources were provided, protect them from misuse, employ them productively, and eventually give an account. Access is a privilege, but access also creates responsibility. Now watch this carefully, because some people will become irresponsible and call it faith. Stewardship is not passivity. A good steward plans, a good steward maintains, a good steward learns, a good steward works. A good steward makes prudent decisions because what has been entrusted is valuable. Your income is a resource to manage. Your time is a resource to manage. Your health requires care. Your abilities require development. Your relationships require honor. Your opportunities require discernment. None of these things should be neglected, and none of them should be worshipped. Ownership anxiety says, if I lose this, I become nothing. Stewardship says, if this changes, I remain responsible for my next faithful decision. Did you hear that? You may lose access to one opportunity without losing your capacity to serve. A season may change without canceling your citizenship. A resource may decrease without reducing your value as a person. What is in your hand can change, but the authority governing your heart does not have to change with it. This understanding also produces gratitude. When breath is received as a gift, you use it with appreciation. When ability is received as an assignment, you develop it. When provision is received as a trust, you stop boasting as though you created yourself. Gratitude is the language of stewardship because gratitude remembers the source. But listen carefully. Trusting God does not mean ignoring your bills, misusing your money, or expecting consequences to disappear because you used religious vocabulary. That is not trust. That is neglect wearing church clothes. The steward does not own tomorrow, but the steward must faithfully manage today. So identify one thing you have been gripping as proof of your identity. Is it your salary, your title, your home, your relationship, your talent? Reclassify it now. It is not your identity. It is an assignment to manage. Everybody say, what is entrusted to me may change, but my identity does not change with it. You do not need to own the future. You are accountable for what is in your hands today. And this ownership illusion becomes even more dangerous when possessions and positions stop serving you and begin telling you who you are. Let us conduct an identity test. Remove the title, remove the salary, remove the relationship, remove the audience, remove the applause. If you feel that nothing remains, then something temporary has been carrying permanent weight. Write this down. Anything you use to prove your worth will eventually gain the power to threaten your peace. Your employment describes an assignment. Your income describes a resource. Your reputation describes what other people currently believe about you. All three may matter, but none is large enough to define your entire person. The kingdom gives identity before the marketplace gives opportunity. Your worth begins with belonging, purpose, and responsibility, not with demand for your services. The market may decide what it will pay for your skill. It does not possess the authority to determine the value of your life. People may evaluate your performance. They are not qualified to manufacture your identity. Now watch this. Comparison operates like a competing government. It gives you its laws: look successful, appear happy, stay ahead, never admit weakness. Then it gives you a measuring system. You compare your private struggle with somebody else's public presentation and wonder why you feel behind. That system will make you exaggerate what is going well, conceal where you need help, compromise your convictions to remain accepted, and respond to every criticism as though your existence is on trial. You are not protecting a reputation anymore. You are serving an applause meter. Someone says, "But I need the job. I need the opportunity. I need that relationship." Of course, some needs are real. The correction is not to deny the need. The correction is to refuse to deify what meets the need. You can need employment without worshiping an employer. You can desire companionship without surrendering your identity. You can value an opportunity without violating your character to keep it. This is important. Humility is not self-erasure, and confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance must prove that it is superior. Insecurity must constantly prove that it belongs. Kingdom confidence can remain calm because it knows both its value and its responsibility. It does not need to dominate the room, perform for the room, or collapse when the room refuses to applaud. Take an identity inventory. Complete this sentence: I am valuable because I have. Whatever comes next deserves examination. Replace possession with character. Replace applause with calling. Replace status with belonging. Replace display with contribution. Now name one role you perform: parent, employee, leader, spouse, student, creator. Say this aloud. This role is an assignment I carry. It is not the source of my personhood. Again, I carry the role does not carry my identity. A circumstance can change your platform without canceling your responsibility to represent the kingdom. A title may end, but integrity remains possible. Income may change, but stewardship remains necessary. Criticism may come, but allegiance remains your choice. And when identity is no longer chained to possessions, positions, or applause, you are finally ready to confront the next enemy of peace, the scarcity reflex. Scarcity is not merely having limited resources. Scarcity is a way of interpreting resources. It assumes that everything is threatened, everybody is a competitor, and survival requires you to protect yourself from everyone. Now, scarcity produces two opposite behaviors. One person hoards every dollar because tomorrow looks dangerous. Another person spends every dollar because buying something creates a temporary feeling of power, comfort, or status. One grips money, the other throws money. But both are being governed by fear. Write this down. Fear does not make you a steward. Fear makes the resource your master. The economy of the kingdom introduces a different spirit. Giving is not supposed to be an occasional performance extracted through pressure. It becomes a disposition, a willingness to let resources serve the values of the king. But listen carefully. Generosity is not a gimmick for manipulating God. It is not a vending machine where you insert an offering and demand a larger amount tomorrow. And no one should use spiritual language to pressure vulnerable people into reckless decisions. Giving demonstrates that fear does not own your hand, which may involve money, but it is larger than money. You can give food. You can give time. You can share knowledge, attention, hospitality, encouragement, or access to an opportunity. Generosity says, what has reached me does not have to end with me. But generosity and prudence are not enemies. A steward also saves. A steward learns useful skills. A steward avoids needless waste. A steward makes wise decisions repeatedly, even when those decisions are not exciting. You cannot waste everything on Monday, call it faith on Tuesday, and blame heaven on Wednesday. That is not kingdom economics. That is poor management with religious decoration. Picture a household table. Responsible care does not mean eating everything today because tomorrow is uncertain. It also does not mean locking everything away while somebody at the table remains hungry. Stewardship gives each portion a purpose. Some is needed now. Some must be protected for later. Some can be shared. Some should not be purchased at all. So replace the panic questions. Stop asking only, how much can I keep? Ask, what is truly needed? What must be protected? What can be shared? What should be delayed? Which decision agrees with integrity? Kingdom abundance begins with freedom from being mastered by lack. It does not mean citizens will never experience constraint. It means constraint does not receive permission to corrupt their character. Suppose your income is reduced. A kingdom response does not pretend nothing happened. You tell the truth. You revise the plan. You seek wise counsel. You cut unnecessary spending. You continue learning. You preserve meaningful generosity in a form appropriate to your capacity, and you refuse to wear financial pressure as personal shame. That is generosity joined to prudence. That is faith joined to responsibility. Write this down and repeat it. Fear asks what I can keep. Stewardship asks what this resource is for. Again, fear asks what I can keep. Stewardship asks what this resource is for. But even the wisest plan cannot answer every question about tomorrow. And when planning reaches its limit, anxiety will try to become a counterfeit form of control. It is 2 o'clock in the morning. Your body is in bed, but your mind is holding a meeting. It is replaying yesterday's conversation, preparing tomorrow's argument, calculating next month's disaster, and answering questions nobody has asked. Your body is in the room, but your thoughts have traveled into a future that has not arrived. Listen carefully. Concern and anxiety are not the same thing. Concern identifies a problem and asks what responsible action is available. Anxiety circles the problem repeatedly, even when no new information and no present action are available. Write this down. Thinking about tomorrow is not the same as governing tomorrow. You can rehearse a possible disaster 50 times and still possess no authority over whether it happens. That is mental labor without governing power. It exhausts you while producing the illusion that exhaustion is preparation. Now, your mind functions like a lens. If that lens is saturated with fear, every delay looks like rejection. Every correction sounds like hostility. Every change becomes catastrophe. The event may be difficult, but fear enlarges it, interprets it, and then announces its prediction as though it were a fact. Renewed perception does not mean pretending everything is good. It does not mean inventing a hidden divine explanation for every painful event. It means refusing to let fear become the only interpreter in the room. When your thoughts begin to accelerate, pause and follow this sequence. First, name the fact. What has actually happened? Second, separate the fact from the prediction. What are you adding that you do not yet know? Third, identify the present responsibility. What can you truthfully do today? Fourth, seek wisdom from prayer, sound counsel, and reliable information. Fifth, surrender the result you cannot control. For example, my employer announced a review as a fact. I will certainly lose everything as a prediction. Your responsibility may be to prepare, update your work, ask appropriate questions, and review your finances. Do that. Then stop pretending that panic gives you access to tomorrow. And watch your information environment. Some people invite the whole world into their minds before breakfast. Alarm, argument, comparison, outrage, and then they wonder why purpose cannot get a word in. You do not need ignorance, but you do need boundaries. Choose intentional times to receive necessary information. Verify what matters. Stop consuming repetition that increases fear without increasing responsibility. Build routines that strengthen inner government, prayer, reflection, planning, learning, gratitude, and keeping small commitments. These practices do not control every outcome. They train you to participate responsibly without being ruled by reaction. And if anxiety becomes persistent, overwhelming, or disruptive to daily life, seeking appropriate professional help is not a betrayal of faith. Wise stewardship includes receiving qualified care when it is needed. Now let us practice. Name one fact. Reject one prediction you cannot support. Identify one faithful action available today. Say it aloud. I will act on what is mine to do, and I will release what is not mine to control. Once fear is removed from the throne, faith must prove that it can walk into ordinary responsibilities rather than hide from them. Some people believe they must choose between trusting God and making a plan. That is a false choice. Responsible planning can be an expression of trust because stewardship prepares carefully for the assignment it has received. Write this down. Faith does not eliminate preparation. It removes worship from preparation. Two people can create the same plan and be governed by different spirits. One says, everything depends on me. If I fail to control every detail, my life is finished. The other says, I will prepare diligently, act honestly, and release the result I cannot command. The first person uses planning to manufacture security. The second uses planning to fulfill responsibility. Watch how practical this becomes. In employment, develop competence. Study your field. Arrive prepared. Keep your commitments. Pursue appropriate opportunities and adapt when conditions change. But do not ask your occupation to tell you who you are. A job is an assignment, not a creator of identity. In your finances, tell the truth about the numbers. Build a budget. Save when possible. Reduce avoidable waste. Seek sound counsel when you do not understand something. Refuse panic spending, but also refuse magical expectations that substitute slogans for wisdom. Faith is not afraid of arithmetic. In your health, care for the body you have been entrusted to manage. Rest appropriately. Pay attention to concerning changes. Seek qualified medical care when needed and follow wise guidance. Prayer and practical care are not enemies. Receiving help does not mean you have rejected God. It may mean you have accepted your responsibility. In society, remain informed without becoming consumed. Fulfill lawful responsibilities. Act justly. Serve your neighbors. Participate with integrity. But never permit a political party, leader, or conflict to claim the allegiance that belongs to the kingdom. Earthly citizenship creates duties. Kingdom citizenship establishes the values with which those duties are performed. Now, consider a machine designed to operate in a particular way. You may sincerely prefer another method, but sincerity cannot cancel design. If you misuse the machine, good intentions will not prevent malfunction. In the same way, obedience is not pointless control. It is alignment with principles that protect purpose. Truthfulness, discipline, justice, and responsibility are not burdens invented to frustrate you. They are part of functioning faithfully. But listen carefully. Alignment does not guarantee that every outcome will match your preference. You can prepare well and still be rejected. You can manage wisely and still face economic pressure. You can pursue care and still receive difficult news. You can treat people honorably and still encounter betrayal. Citizenship governs your response. It does not grant control over every response around you. So before a major decision, ask 5 questions. Is it truthful? Is it responsible? Does it serve people? Does it violate my convictions? Am I moving from wisdom or reacting from panic? Everybody say this. Faith is not an excuse to avoid responsibility. It is the foundation from which I carry responsibility without worshiping control. Planning reveals personal responsibility. But culture reveals citizenship, and culture becomes most visible when pressure makes compromise convenient. Return to the picture of an embassy. An embassy does not represent its government only when conditions are friendly. Its representation matters most when the surrounding environment operates by different values. In the same way, kingdom citizenship becomes credible when pressure offers you a profitable reason to abandon kingdom culture. Write this down. Identity becomes visible as culture, and culture becomes measurable as repeated behavior. Integrity sounds impressive until telling the truth may cost you money. What happens when a report can be altered, a defect can be hidden, or a promise can be quietly forgotten? What happens when another person is desperate and you could exploit that desperation for your own advantage? Integrity is not what you announce when honesty is convenient. Integrity is the culture you reproduce when deception appears profitable. Generosity is also tested under limitation. It is easy to share what you do not value. The real question is whether fear closes your heart when resources become modest. Generosity does not require public performance or reckless giving. It asks whether something in your hand, money, food, time, attention, knowledge, or access, can responsibly serve another person. Then there is justice. Justice refuses to measure human value by usefulness. It does not honor the influential person while ignoring the invisible one. It rejects favoritism, manipulation, and dehumanization because every person must be treated as more than a tool for personal advancement. And service is the practical expression of dominion. Dominion is not permission to control people. It is responsibility to use influence, ability, and access to improve conditions. If your authority only makes you larger while everyone around you becomes smaller, that is not kingdom leadership. Power that cannot serve has misunderstood its purpose. Now let us deal with criticism. Peace does not mean you must remain silent while falsehood or wrongdoing continues. You may correct an error, establish a boundary, report injustice, or defend someone being harmed. But you can address the wrong without allowing outrage to reproduce the same wrong inside you. Composure is not weakness. It is power under government. So answer these questions honestly. What happens to your values when money is tight? What happens to your language when your name is attacked? What happens to your compassion when fear says there is not enough? What happens to your integrity when nobody is checking? Visible kingdom culture does not guarantee applause. It does not guarantee immunity from hardship or immediate success. Sometimes integrity costs. Sometimes service is ignored. Sometimes restraint is mistaken for weakness. But citizenship is demonstrated by allegiance within uncertainty, not by comfort without opposition. Choose one value now: integrity, generosity, justice, service, or peace. Identify one specific situation this week where that value must become visible. Do not admire the principle, demonstrate it. Everybody say this: pressure does not create citizenship, it reveals which culture has been governing the citizen. Again, pressure reveals the culture within me. The framework is now complete. But every government eventually asks for evidence of allegiance. So the final movement must become personal. It is time for a citizenship examination. Now the examination becomes personal. Citizenship establishes identity. Stewardship puts resources in order. Renewed perception disciplines anxiety. Responsible action honors the assignment. And culture reveals allegiance. The system is complete. But the question remains, who has the final word in your life? When money changes, what defines your worth? When criticism comes, what governs your response? When the future is unclear, what directs your next action? When resources become tight, what happens to your generosity, your honesty, and your compassion? Do not answer with the label you claim. Answer with the behavior you repeat. Listen carefully. Every citizen faces competing authorities. For one person, it is economic fear. For another, it is public approval. For someone else, political outrage has become the government of the mind. Perhaps comparison directs your decisions. Perhaps comfort controls your obedience. Perhaps your deepest ruler is the need to control every outcome. Name it. You cannot challenge an authority you refuse to identify. Now establish a daily practice with 4 movements. First, remember the government you represent. Before the world gives you its identity, remember your own. Second, receive the day as an entrusted assignment. Ask what must be managed, served, and completed. Third, review the values that must govern you: truth, integrity, generosity, justice, and peace. Fourth, release the results you cannot control after you have fulfilled your responsibility. Protect your morning. Do not allow noise to become your first government. Limit information that magnifies fear without increasing wisdom. Remember previous provision. Keep small commitments. Serve somebody. Make decisions from declared values rather than temporary emotion. These habits train your citizenship until conviction becomes culture. Write 2 sentences. In the first, name the fear that has been governing you. I have allowed fear of rejection, loss, criticism, or uncertainty to control my peace. In the second, name the kingdom value that will govern your next decision. I will act with integrity, stewardship, courage, generosity, or restraint. Everybody say this: my residence may be in changing conditions, but my identity, allegiance, and values will not be ruled by them. Again, conditions may affect me, but they do not own me. Peace is not the absence of hardship. Peace is stability of government within you while hardship is faced honestly. You can acknowledge the shaking without allowing the shaking to become your king. For the next 7 days, begin each morning with your identity statement. Choose one responsible action available that day. Demonstrate one kingdom value before consuming unnecessary commentary. Do it before fear holds its meeting. Do it before comparison begins its measurements. Do it before the world tells you who you are. The citizen does not deny the crisis. The citizen does not abandon responsibility. The citizen does not pretend to control tomorrow. The citizen remains faithful, useful, disciplined, and anchored while conditions change. And remember, this examination is not taken once. Every new pressure will ask for your allegiance again. Every uncertain moment will invite fear back to the throne. When it does, your citizenship must answer not merely with words, but with the culture your life reproduces.